Good morning, good day, and good afternoon, my brothers and sisters. So today we're going to look at the 36 decans of the ancient and medieval astrology. I've just been posting a lot this week about the Tree of Life, of course, on my Instagram and on my Patreon. Links will be obviously below. Check those out. I'm sure if you're watching this, you're going to love those. And so the Tree of Life is very, very, I keep intuitively and intellectually bumping into this link between the Tree of Life and the 36 overseers or the decans. That name of these friggin' decans, the Greek name, is going to absolutely kill me. I think it was in one of my diagrams. I'll let me get it up. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. But so the 36 decans, right? The philosophy in ancient times, because we are studying astrology, but the beauty, the inexplicable beauty of astrology is in the fact that we have access through a solid system of astrology. We have access to the physical manifestation of the will of the gods. And through that symbolic knowledge, if I mean, look, if somebody thinks that bad aspects and powerful malefic stars, Saturn and Mars, oppositions and squares, if these are representative symbolically of divine harmony, right? That illusion is very, very quickly going to be wiped away when they study astrology, because they'll realize, no, opposition squares, Mars and Saturn, they cause great strife, they cause sickness, they cause poverty, enemies, difficulty, all kinds of problems, So that doesn't mean that difficulties in the material world are bad for us. No, difficulties in this world can be very, very good spiritually. But it's not so much, we're not talking about the human side of it, we're talking about the symbolic side of it. Because if Mars and Saturn, their influence on the material world is negative, right? They cause difficulties in our lives, for better or for worse, hopefully always for the better, right? But they nevertheless are causing difficulties, hardship. That means that in the invisible world, in the divine world, those two planets are, man, I'm losing my train of thought. They are linked with the negative forces from the invisible world rather than the harmonious ones, which, that's why the earth is symbolized by a square. I mean, that's the two worst aspects of astrology, the opposition and the square. These are the most difficult aspects. How did I get to this talk about Mars and Saturn? Sorry, I lose my train of thought very quickly with these videos. I don't understand why or how. You have to bear with me. Just get this picture up. It was in miscellaneous. Yep. All right. Topan omnia asteres stellae. The zodiacos. Here we go. Hoi decanoi episcopoi. That's the word. Episcopoi. The I knew it was something scope. In Greek, scope or scopeo means to look. I look. In this case, it's a noun actually. Scopoi. But anyway, the verb scopeo is to look, and epi is just epi has like a million possible meanings, but it just means to do with something. In the vaguest sense, it means to do with something. So episkopoi, oi, the suffix oi in Greek is masculine and it's plural masculine. So we know there's plurals, and these are people who are looking at something. or looking they're Yeah, they're looking over. Basically, we just call them the overseers in English. The over, literally, like, it doesn't literally translate to overseer. You could translate it as overseer, literally, because it is, the word is to see, to look, to oversee, to overlook. Same thing in English. But yeah, epi is a funny one. There's like a million different translations. Anyway, but yeah, episcopoi, the overseers of the world, very clear. You know what this means. They are the lords of the world. Oh, that's how I got to the whole Mars and Saturn tish. So I'll continue with that now. I'm such a scatterbrain. I'm sorry. My we'll have to talk about this sometime, but my natal Mercury in my birth chart is very special. And like, it's actually very special. It's not just special because I think so. It's actually very, very rare to have a Mercury like mine. And it's not necessarily a good thing, but my Mercury was a jumping Mercury. They called him, in Babylon, they called him the jumping star. And this is because when Mercury appeared in the sky for the first time, he would appear in the evening, you know, or the morning, whatever, and you'd see him one day, and then you'd go back the next day expecting to see him, but he wouldn't be there. So he would appear and disappear and sort of jump in and out. No other star does that except Mercury. And that only happens, you know, occasionally, and that's happening in my birth. You know, on the day that I was born, he was jumping. He was in that process for about a week of jumping in and out of visibility. So my mind is it's jumping in and out of the conscious and the unconscious faculties. It's very interesting. I'm still like learning how it manifests, because it's very, you know, I mean, no other astrologer would even know that was happening in my chart. But anyway, please don't lose my train of thought again. So Mars and Saturn, right? And the bad aspects and stuff. So it's giving us this physically symbolic proof of the character of or of the structure, the structure of the universe. Square equals bad, basically, or a square in opposition, this box shape, right, is connected with the forces of destruction. Let's put it that way. You know, that's not necessarily bad, but it's the forces of destruction, which are, for human beings, are difficult to endure. And therefore, extrapolated onto the divine plane, the square is a representative of what is furthest from the divine, which is matter. God is here, matter is here, and they're a polarity, they're polarized. And that's how, you know, creation happens through that polarity. So so the squares, the oppositions, Mars and Saturn, we can see through the proof, because this world is just, everything that happens is just symbolic. It's holographic. You know, I hate to use the word holographic, but you know, what's a better word? It's synchronized. It's synchronized with the web, with the web, right? The Webster, the star of webs, the web of stars. It's synchronized with everything is synchronized with everything. As above, so below. I mean, can't get any simpler than that now, right? And so we can see that basically Mars and Saturn and these bad aspects, they are linked with, they are, no matter what, they are linked with the evil spirits. Even if that evil, you know, those hardships, because I mean, you know, angels can't bring us hardships. They don't do that. Angels are full of love and wisdom, and they want to nurture us and guide us, but they cannot directly bring us suffering because their vibration is too high. It's too pure. So who brings us suffering? The evil spirits bring us suffering. And the evil spirits bring us suffering under the command of the angels. If you read the Bible, right, it says God sent a demon. I think it's the story of David. God sent a demon to test Saul, the previous king before David, right? And it's always, I read this years ago, and I was just like, so obvious. I mean, can it get more obvious? The evil forces are under the command and direction of more powerful forces, which are the forces of light. So even if suffering, and that's why suffering is always bringing us closer towards the good and creating more unseen good. It's kind of a little difficult to explain, but the darkness is like a womb. Evil is like a womb in which good is gestating. New forms of good are gestating in the womb of darkness. That's really the case. So that's that. Yeah, I think I've made that. All the pieces are kind of there. That the angels command the evil spirits, who are then the ones who cause us difficulties. And those evil spirits manifest how? Through Mars and Saturn. They come to us through Mars and Saturn. Mars and Saturn are linked directly with the evil spirits, no matter what, right? Even on the tree of life, in the spheres of the hermetic spheres, on any of those systems, they are linked with the evil spirits. Because, and Saturn is always at the top. He's the last sphere that you leave before that you reach, sorry, before you enter the next world. The divine world, the eternal world. Kind of, well, there's a bit of debate about that. I want to talk about the Decans. I'm really getting sidetracked. Holy shit. And so Saturn is that last sphere because you have to face a lot of evil spirits, right, before you leave. I mean, the Buddha, the whole story of the Buddha, before he gained his enlightenment, the entire host of hell was unleashed upon him, and it was then that he gained his enlightenment. So it's through those hardships of Saturn and Mars at those respective spheres that we are stimulated by difficulty to go beyond, to expand beyond our previous limitations. That is the sort of meaning there of the evil. And Jupiter, whilst Jupiter and Venus are always symbolically connected with the angelic realms. And obviously these are symbols, right? So I'm not going to cling to anything and be like, this is the only way to look at it. It's not at all the only way to look at it, but it's kind of, if you want to understand astrology, this is the best way to look at it, in this way. And just because somebody has a really strong Mars or Saturn doesn't necessarily mean that they're an evil spirit. They will be attacked by a lot of evil spirits, though, and it's about how do they work with that, because they will then have a lot of pressure, which will force them to grow or to disintegrate. So when you look at Mars and Saturn in a chart, you're looking at where are the evil spirits coming from? How are they coming? How are they affecting this person? If somebody's Saturn, I have a friend, he's got Saturn in the third house with literally no aspects at all. The only one is like a 20-degree square to Jupiter. I mean, or 15, I think it was 15 or 16-degree square to Jupiter. And I'm just like, you just don't have Saturn. And he just has no fear. He's not afraid, he doesn't have any of that. I'm very Saturnian, right? Very sort of authoritative and high and mighty and commanding and reserved as well, and cold and very kind of Victorian English in a way. And my friend has none of that. He's all warmth and hugs and kisses and enthusiasm and light and excitement and da-da-da-da-da, so on and so forth. And a little bit childish as well. He's a little bit childish in a good way, right? It's good to be childish. It's also good to be wise. So you've got to have both. Anyway. But if one of those planets just doesn't show up, then they're not going to be hugely challenged by that planet unless it hits in a primary direction or other stuff happens with transit, things like that, or a year chart happens with a big Saturn. But in general, their personality is not going to have much of those dark spirits influencing it. I need to stop eating on video. So anyway, this is going somewhere. Whoops. This is going somewhere towards the Decans. Because we here are studying astrosophy, the philosophy or the wisdom, Sophia, of Aster, of the stars. Sophia Asteres, Sophies Asteres. Yeah. Tes, hold on. He, tes, Sophies, asteroi, actually, it would be asterai, I think. Maybe. Why does he put asteris in that diagram? Anyway, sorry, I'm looking at a diagram on my screen right now. I'll show it to you in a sec. So we're talking about the Decans, right? And I just gave you a whole spiel about Mars and Saturn and evil spirits, and you're just like, what the hell is this idiot talking about? You know, I don't want to hear about Mars and Saturn. I want to hear about the Decans. So I hear you. Let's talk about the Decans. The reason that I went through that is because it's a really easy, straightforward way of seeing that the symbols of astrology, right? The philosophical side of astrology, which is basically saying the world is split in two, there's good and bad, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, Sun, Moon, Mercury in the middle, right? The philosophy of astrology is directly connected with how it manifests in the physical world. So it's not only showing us how things manifest physically, but also how they are structured invisibly and how the two are connected. And that's the beautiful thing, is connecting the two, because we have all these philosophies and it's all very extravagant and theoretical, and that's wonderful, that's beautiful, okay? But when we get very skilled with astrology, we can see how the invisible world and its forces and themes are linking in with the real events of our physical life. It's really an astounding practice. And it's the same thing with the Decans. So I'm going to tell you, what were the Decans? In the ancient times, they were to do with, they were called the overseers, right? And it was basically theorized that they were, the philosophy is that they are the commanders of the universe. They are the 72 names of God, one masculine and one feminine, of each decan. 2 times 36, 72 names of God from the Kabbalah, right? And those are the 72 powers, the 72 forces which again harmonize and create and then oversee the entire cosmos. Sorry, kids crying in the background. So I gave you that whole spiel to kind of say that that's not just a theory, that's real. And how do we know that it's real? I mean, obviously, you know, you won't believe me. It might take some leap of faith for you, or some time or development or whatever. But the sky is always turning 24 hours every day, right? And every day for approximately 40 minutes each day, each one of those decans is on the ascendant, ruling the world. And this is how these forces are given rulership of the whole cosmos. And then over the course of a solar year, we will see both the masculine and feminine faces of each of those decans. So the masculine face shows when that decan is rising before the sun at sunrise, masculine, morning star, birth, creation, impetus, masculine, right? And the feminine face, of course, shows when that decan is setting at sunset with the sun, which will happen at opposite times of the year. You know, it'll rise in February and set in August, that sort of thing, 6 months apart, approximately. Not every single one, of course, they're all doing that at different times of the year. But so this is the philosophy, and so this is sort of the practical way that we can see how astrology is linked with the philosophy. It's not just theoretical. Oh yeah, there's these 36 dudes out there or gals out there who are overseeing everything. not a bit of it. We can observe with our own eyes how well, maybe not how's a bit of a stretch, you've got to be a bit developed to do that, but we can observe the bodies of these divinities as they are ruling our cosmos, as they are coming up over the ascendant, being born, right? Coming above the ascendant is a symbol of birth, because it's going from being non-seen to being seen above the horizon. Yeah, I'm blasting you with a lot of very philosophical stuff with astrology, which I'm sure that a lot of you haven't really come across before, because this is I'm grateful, I'm glad that heaven has deemed that astrology should be so widespread in the modern age, but I'm also a bit regretful that it's so shallow as well, and that the real wisdom and philosophical knowledge behind, or philosophical stance behind astrology, is so lost, or so taken for granted, and this is very like beautiful, divine, divine philosophy. So if not for your sake, for my sake, try and treasure this with all your heart, so that I'm not reprimanded by the great spirits for sharing this information with people who aren't yet ready to value it. But yeah, so now let's have a little look at what is it? Hoi episcopoi. Here, look there, it says episcopoi. And what do we have here? I know I like to use Zoom when I record, because I just can't be bothered figuring out another way. It's the easiest way I've found to share my screen. So as you can see, we've got here the Hermetic spheres, then the stars, the zodiac, and inside the zodiac, the decans. And each decan is given a name. You may recognize some of this. Look at this one. Asclepius, Asclepios in Greek and Latin here. Theoi, 36, yep. The 36 episcopi, there you go. 36 overseers, basically. Oh, that's what this is. Gamma Sigma, yeah. Is that even upside down, or is it? Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, it is upside down, yeah. But yeah, so it just says the 36 decans, basically, that this is, the Greek letters are also numbers, whereas the Roman, of course, is very recognizable. And then, each one, look, we've got this one, Kairos is, that's a funny one. There's a lot of these. So this was actually, funnily enough, this diagram, this is from Rumen Kolev. You can check out his website. I'll put a link in the description, babylonianastrology.com. This is my teacher, Rumen Kolev, who does, he's just done an unbelievable, I mean, I don't know how we could ever repay what he has done for this science. It's really, really incredible stuff. And this diagram is his, he's printed it. And it's from, like, he's obviously redrawn it so it's more clear. This is originally from a manuscript in, I think, the 5th or 6th century AD, from was it a Catholic saint or something? Christian saint called, his name was Saint Cosmos of Mayuma. Saint Cosmas of Mayuma. And he drew this. Hermetic spheres by a Christian saint. Well, somebody's going to come burn me at the stake for saying that, but this is the historical fact of it. So obviously, Christianity is not all that it's claiming to be, because this guy knows more about astrology than most astrologers do, and he's a Christian. It's quite ironic. And so this is the only sort of, well, this is the main piece of information that he's left, is these names of the decans. And some of the, the Greek names, we don't even know who the heck they are, because ancient Greek is just that kind of language that it's not alive anymore. we have to extrapolate meanings based on the way it seems to appear in texts and the words around it in the context. So it's very interesting. So like one, Loy Moss, this name here is, nobody knows, nobody knew. What the heck is that? This is actually one of the names of Apollo, and it means the plague, the one who sends the plague, or the plague bringer. And this is the Decan that is rising at spring in the Dark Age. So I told you before about how the Decans rule our world, right? They rule by turning 24 hours every day. This is the microcycle. So that's how the universe stays structured on those 36 pillars that keep it, keep everything. Basically the Decans, or these divinities whose bodies are in the stars of the Decans, these divinities are acting as conductors of the divine life coming straight from the Godhead. And that divine life flows through the conductors and then through their physical bodies and into the physical universe, and through that love of God, which flows through them, and they make it less and less intense so that it can be handled by our realm. Otherwise, we would evaporate. They transform it into a lower frequency, and they, through that love, it is that love that sustains and supports this entire universe. And so that's how it stays up, right? The daily microcycle. I also told you there's a yearly cycle where they rise at different times, basically around the sun. And then there is I'm sure there's even other cycles, mini cycles in there as well, and you could look at it with each of the planets, so on and so forth. Astrology is infinitely complex. But then there is the great year, of course, Plato's great year. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, the 25,500, whatever, how many years it is, 25,000 something years, right? Which is the time that it takes for the spring equinox, which is the middle of spring, when the day and night are equal. It's the time that it takes the spring equinox to go all the way around the zodiac, 25 something thousand years. And it's moving through each decan. We can even have a look. Where is it? Which decan is it in now? This is just occurring to me. It's in the last decan of Pisces, just before it moves into Aquarius. Here we have some divinity called Oceanus. Probably, I think this is the Titan. This is the Titan of the sea. This is before Poseidon. Okeanos here in the Greek. Okeanos. Very interesting. So we are under the rulership of a Titan in this age. And then as Aquarius begins, look, we move to Osiris. So that should be a rebirth, powerful, life-giving forces, And then in the middle of the golden age of Aquarius, Timur, fear, Phobos, when humanity conquers its fears. And then justice at the end. Very, very interesting. But anyway, so that's where we are now, and it will slowly move through each of these decans. It'll be about 800 years, I think, in each one. And eventually in the Dark Age, so we just talked about the Golden Age, Osiris and these other gods here. And in the Dark Age, the spring equinox will be here near Scorpio, coming close towards Scorpio. And when it's close to Scorpio, it is in this decan Loimos, which is the form of Apollo, who is angry and he's shooting his plague-bearing arrow into the human race. And this is the Dark Age. I mean, when in the Revelations, it literally says in this end of the world, the Apollon will come. Apollo will come. Loimos will come, bearing the plague. And it talks about a plague of locusts with the face of a man and the sting of a scorpion. Let's have another little look at the zodiac there. What is appearing here? The face of a man, Sagittarius, and the sting of Scorpio in the scorpion. So just, food for thought. Obviously, I haven't been around in the Dark Age yet, so I can't verify this for us. But the Golden Age is Taurus, Aquarius, Leo. The Dark Age is Scorpio, Pisces, probably Cancer a little bit as well. Not so much Cancer. Capricorn, Scorpio, Pisces, and Capricorn are the sort of dark, more kind of Dark Ages. You would assume, not necessarily, but in theory, definitely Scorpio. Definitely Scorpio is about the Dark Age, linked with the Loimos, the plague of Apollo, and that's what it says in the Revelations. That at the end of days, Apollon will come bearing this plague, and he will unleash the forces of chaos, basically. And Apollon is God. Apollo is God himself. So, there's a lot going on here. And anyway, I hope that this video is helpful for you in your search for these mystical truths about the astrology and the Decans. I'll put a timestamp to when the Decans begin. If you want to like and subscribe, please do. That will really help me out. Everybody says that. I don't even know if it will. What would help me out even more is if you want to book a session. Now, that's a real way that you can help me out. And of course, my Patreon is, if you want more of this kind of long form, mystical astrological content, as well as, of course, updates on what's going on in the sky, Patreon is the place for you. So I hope that I will see you all there, and all the links will be in the description. God bless you, my brothers and sisters, and I will see you again soon.